All right, welcome everybody. Oh, we got lots of people here. Oh, I see Joseph's here too. Awesome.
All right. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody's doing well in their neck of the woods. I know
So
here in
Nick,
New Jersey, we just got through a tropical storm.
yeah.
And yeah, man, it was crazy. It ripped these huge trees out of the ground.
Oh my
Nuts.
gosh, dude.
Nuts. Power
Yeah.
lines down everywhere.
Yep.
It's crazy, crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, you got power back and you got internet and all that stuff, and hopefully it's mostly sorted out.
Thank God.
Yeah,
Especially for my
seriously.
family because when I sleep at night and it's hot, man, I get irritable. Man, they got
Yep.
to deal with me being a miserable
Oh man, yeah, I'm
SOB.
right there
So,
with you. Yeah, yeah. No, I don't like it when it's hot at night.
uh, all
Oh,
right.
cool,
Well,
man.
thanks for joining us, everyone. Yeah, I mean, this is great to see everybody on the line here.
Yeah.
Matt, if you're kind of new to these calls, Matt and I have been doing these for a few months now, and I think it's been working out really well. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah. No, I really love doing this. I mean, this data science superheroes type thing that we've been doing for the past few months, it has been really great. And it's, the whole point between what Joe and I've been doing is we met each other last year at Strata, and we just hit it off with kind of this, personal development and kind of growing yourself as well as growing your career, and putting those two things together. Because, um, I mean, we all love machine learning, we all love data science and the science and the mathematics and all that stuff, and we talk a lot about that. But at the same time, there's these other things that are important too, like how do you interview, how do you level up your career, how do you get better, and that's, I think, what gets us all excited. So stoked to get into it today. I know we got some pretty interesting stuff. And um, yeah, the other thing is that, if you get, any of you have a question or anything like that, it's we do open up some time for questions and that kind of thing. um, the nice part about doing Zoom is that we can see you and we can talk to you and interact with you. And yeah, so we- so we're talking about some cool stuff today, Joe. I know we're going to talk about, like, kind of the secrets that we came up with for really getting more experience and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, like Matt mentioned, the purpose of these calls are really to go beyond the technical part of things in data science and
yeah,
AI, and
hmm
really push into the space of personal development, and talk about things that we've learned through our
yeah,
careers and through our lives that have helped us be successful, not only just in the field, but I think in life itself, in life in
yeah.
general. So
Yeah, yeah. And, the other thing I'd add just before we get into it, Joe, is, I think what's interesting about the two of us is that, we each have our kind of, we've been doing this for a long period of time, like the statistics and math and all that good stuff. But, Joe's spent a lot of time, learning from, like, Brendan Burchard and, like, Tony Robbins, and kind of these really big figures in personal development. I've spent a lot of time working on kind of more of this, I guess, shadow type stuff, psychology, things like that. Always love to talk about that, but it's a nice mix. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, first of all, anytime I talk to Matt, I get tons of good nuggets and good resources and good advice, and you guys will too. um, and actually, I've been reading the book you've been mentioning a lot lately, called
hmm,
How to Read a Book by
yeah,
Morgan Radler. Awesome
yeah,
book. Oh my God. I'm like, how come I haven't read this book yet? Like, I'm
yeah,
45 years old. I haven't read this book yet. I should
yeah,
have
yeah,
read this when I was, 12.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
it came out in the 1940s. Like,
yeah.
so
It's crazy book.
it's
Yeah,
awesome. I love the fact that you're tapped into those resources that especially have been around for a long time, that a lot of people have forgotten, or
yeah,
been overshadowed by some of the recent stuff. But yeah, I mean, you guys are in for a treat. Matt has, you know, probably over a decade of experience in data science. He's written 2 books from O'Reilly on machine learning. You know, and I have 25 years of
Yeah.
experience in R&D and, you know, been led AI teams in multiple
Hmm.
companies and so forth. So we're happy to answer any questions that you have. Let's focus on the topic today. But
Hmm.
if you do have other questions and we have some time for that, we're open for that as well. So the topic for today is something that comes up so many times in my experience working with mentees in data science and AI is the problem of, hey, look, you know, you're getting into the field. Maybe you've taken a boot camp. Maybe you've taken some online courses, read some books, and you really want to develop your skills or get a job or get a better job in data science. But you really just don't have the experience that most employers are looking for.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how do you get that experience? You know, how do you develop that experience and add those items to your resume so that you can be competitive and so that employers will look at you and want to hire you?
Yeah.
Um, so we'll, you know, that'll be the topic today, the 4 secrets to building your experience. And I guess I'll turn it over to you, Matt. What are your thoughts? What do you think is the best way to approach this?
Yeah, so I think it's important to talk about, my own experience of becoming a data scientist. I think the one thing I want to put out there is that like at one point I was a total beginner. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and really like when I first started out, like really doing this professionally, I became a software developer in about 2009, 2009. And here's the thing. The way that I got into data science is I have a mathematics degree from the University of Washington. It was an undergrad degree. So I studied mathematics and then I worked in, quantitative finance and I kind of did some research and development. And honestly, when I first started out writing software, so programming, I was hired as a software engineer. There was no such thing as data science. There was, I mean,
Hmm.
it was there, so there was machine learning and people were using k-means and like support vector machines and, little things here and there. But there was no data scientist role. And the thing is that I found that the only way that I was able to get into becoming a data scientist was to be aggressive with taking on new things. So I worked for a company called Wet Paint that no longer exists, but it was a fairly large startup, and they wanted to use the machine learning and kind of the statistics approach to figure out like what content was better suited for Facebook at the time. And we used some pretty interesting techniques to figure out what was working and what was not. And I just volunteered for it. And honestly, like I think that's a really big key point is that I find that with working with a lot of different people, there's kind of this default passiveness, which is not a good place to be. I really feel like the default needs to be, and I'm pulling this from Jocko Willink, who's a Navy SEAL guy. So realize it comes with a grain of salt, but honestly, like if you want to become a data scientist, a lot of it is a mindset. Like make it happen. And if especially for instance, in my job, I was a software engineer, so I knew how to write code and I knew some mathematics, and I just started finding things and saying like, hey, have you guys thought about trying a support vector machine here, or have you tried some basic statistics, and that just kind of over time ended up that now I'm really called a data scientist, and it's just one thing has led to another, and I feel like it's this is kind of a judgment of mine is I think that now that data science is such a big field and there's so many wonderful resources out there, you can go to, Udemy and Udacity and Coursera, and you can learn all of the stuff. That's great. But it's almost like we're conditioning ourselves of like, well, now what? I mean, it's like, I know the stuff, but it's just like, well, I'm not a data scientist yet. And I feel like it's a mindset shift into just going after it and finding, the projects within reach to grasp onto. So.
Awesome. Yeah. And everybody's coming from different point, right, in their career right now.
Absolutely.
Is, and it depends where you're at right now. For some people, you may just be thinking about starting a career in data science, and you're just, really just taking the first step right now. For some of your other folks on the line, maybe you've been working in the field for a number of years now.
Sure.
And you want to expand and maybe go from an analytics role into something that's more model building or machine learning or deep learning based. So we want this to be as interactive as we can do through the meeting. So feel free right now, just take some time to write in the comments, what's your point? What stage are you at right now? Are you working have you been working as a data scientist for a number of years? Are you just getting started? Are you studying in school? Are you taking a boot camp? Let us know. Let us know where you are right now in your journey into data science. But yeah, I mean, that's an awesome story, Matt. I love the fact that you got started in this field even before it was a field itself, right?
It's funny because it's just like I've read a couple of articles about people saying, data science or becoming a data scientist is like the best job in the world kind of stuff, whether it's on US News or whatever. It's a great job. I really feel like data science is a great job. But at the same time, like, it's, I don't know if going after it because it's a great job is the best thing. Sometimes it's just like, just build on the strengths that each of you have, because it's just like I just studied math and I liked math and I just kind of followed some of those threads, and I feel like data science at this point is so deep and so vast that it really, there's a lot, there's things for just about everybody's different personalities and different things that people bring. So yeah.
Absolutely. So another thing you touched on, I think this is an important fact to drive home, is that I think the most effective way to build experience is to look at your current job, whatever that might be, and look for opportunities to take on a project where you can apply the skills that you've learned. Right. And that's kind of your story, right, Matt? Is like, you started as developing software, and now all of a sudden, there was this opportunity to apply some new data science related skills. And that's kind of, it all goes, launches from that point, right?
It's funny because I feel that I have yet to find a boss or manager who's going to be angry at somebody for taking an initiative and trying something new. Now realize don't like, burn the company down or something like that. That's not a good idea. But like, I just found that I said, hey, like, I have this math degree and I see these problems, like, let's go try and fix them. And I feel like everybody here probably knows of something wherever they're at, like organization, or maybe you're looking for the new gig. There's so many opportunities out there, and it's just a matter of identifying them and going after them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I was grateful and fortunate for was when data science really started to become popular. Talking maybe like somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago. I worked for a consulting company, right? One of the largest consulting companies called Booz Allen Hamilton. And what was cool about Booz Allen as a consulting company is, you got an opportunity to work on different projects. Sometimes projects would be, you could work on something part-time, a number of different part-time projects, and work with different clients. But at the time, it was, it was obvious that Booz Allen was pumping a lot of money, investing a lot of money into training their staff
Yeah.
in data science. And, I was just fortunate enough to be able to take the training and then apply the work immediately to client work. And I think that's the key, like in both of our situations, it's like the first place you should look is your own backyard, right? If
Yes.
you're
Very
familiar
much
with the
so.
story of Acres of Diamonds,
Yeah.
you'll
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Don't make the mistake that the guy made in Acres of Diamonds. Look in your backyard first, in the activities that you're doing now. And it could be your current job, or it could be maybe something else that you do. Maybe you're active in a church organization, or, some other community organization where you can help them and assist your, and expand your role, whatever that might be right now.
Yeah, volunteering is such a. I feel like that is definitely a key too. Of there's a lot of people who argue that. So here's something to think about: is that data scientists get paid really well, so companies are taking a bigger risk on that person and that individual. And so a lot of the times people will say, oh my gosh, the barrier is so high because I have, I got to have a master's degree and I have to have all this experience. And a really easy to go around that is volunteering, because a volunteer organization is not going to have nearly the same amount of barriers that, getting a, six-figure job as a data scientist is going to have, because they're more willing to take the risk because there's just less of a risk. Now, I'm not saying like, give up everything and become like, people do NGOs and all that kind of stuff, but it can be a huge value. I've definitely done a little bit of volunteering here and there, and it's a great way to practice without a whole lot of risk. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good point that you bring up.
Yeah, I think that's the most effective way to do it. I mean, it's the most, the weight is given to the experience, to be able to go into an interview and talk about a longer term project that solves a problem for somebody and has an impact on something. It's great to do these online courses and projects that are associated with those. It's great to, do a Kaggle if you folks have done Kaggles before. That's all good from a learning point of view. But I think that when you need to put something on your resume and when you go to a job interview, is you need to have something that has a little bit more depth and activity behind it to talk it through. But that brings up another point which I wanted to emphasize is that I believe that experience trumps education. And and I don't want to say anything bad about education. Both Matt and I both have master's degrees. I am all for it. If going for your PhD is something you want to achieve, awesome, go for it. But don't lose sight of the fact that when people hire you, they want to make sure you do the work. I've had a mentee. I've worked with a number of mentees, but one in particular who doesn't even have a bachelor's degree. And is super smart, awesome, self-learner, very driven. And I would say that he can rival PhDs that I work with. Literally.
I believe it. Yeah.
It's amazing. And the dude doesn't even have, I think he's like 20 now. I mean, when I started working when I was 18 years old, he, it's like he can rival other folks that I work with, and he works for a startup now, making an awesome salary. And he was just able to build his experience. And the way he built it was he just freelanced. He created his own, wrote his own code and went on Upwork and got some assignments and built some code for people. So
Yeah, you know, this brings up since you brought up Mortimer Adler, something that he said. I love Mortimer Adler. The guy is fascinating.
it's
I
awesome.
mean, just oh my gosh, you read about this guy, it's like, whoa, this guy was on a whole different something, you know. Um, the thing he wrote in it was another book, but the thing that just blew my mind is and this relates to experience. When it comes to learning, which is really what we're after here, we're after growth. We're after, like, becoming a better version of ourselves. We want to level up our career. When it comes to growth, he kind of said, there's information and knowledge, and that's kind of this encyclopedic stuff. So, like, if I want to learn about neural networks or recurrent neural networks or who knows what, I can Google it and I can get a whole deluge of stuff. I can go to Wikipedia, I can read the math, I can do all of that stuff. And that's important. So I got my master's degree from Georgia Tech, and I know some weird stuff like Turing machines and random like algorithms and stuff, but information and knowledge is absolutely important. So if you want to learn about machine learning, you can go to Machine Learning Mastery. If you want to learn, about deep learning, go take the Andrew Ng like deep learning course. That's all great. But then on the other side, he talked about understanding and wisdom. And this is something that like just doesn't get played up as much because we live in an information age where information and knowledge is really easily accessible, but the understanding and the wisdom is just not there. And so I find that, especially when I work with different people, it's important to start with understanding first, actually, because when I teach machine learning classes, I talk about what on earth is machine learning even trying to do in the first place, rather than like, well, we're going to talk about supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning, like all of this stuff. And I feel like the understanding and wisdom comes through working with other people, experience just doing it, and that is so important. And I mean, here's the other thing. When we start out, we're terrible at this stuff. I mean, my first day on the job as a software engineer, I didn't know what subversion was. I didn't know what source control was, and I just like hit my head against this wall for like hours upon hours. And it's hilarious to me now because it's so ingrained in me. But
at one point, none of us even knew how to walk or talk.
Right. Yeah. So I guess my point to echo what you're saying is experience is so much more important than the education, and also like having somebody to feedback. So somebody who's more senior or somebody who's a peer to say, hey, you know what, like you should think about doing this a little differently. It is so valuable because I've learned more from pairing with people and learning how their brain works just side by side than, reading a book. And don't get me wrong, I love to read books. I mean, I read probably 100 books a year, I mean, it's just, I love books, but I learn more through talking to Joe, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's mutual. I mean, there's such a power in that, in just talking with somebody who understands some of the concepts that you're talking about, right? Because let's face it, sometimes our family doesn't know what a support vector machine is. Our family doesn't know what cross validation is. Like, you need to kind of have the basic terminology of things and to have a good, intelligent discussion. But it's so important to interact with others, especially, these days where we're all kind of working remotely. I find too many people, they tend to work on these like solo projects where it's just them, doing the thing, doing a thing, no real schedule, no real impact. When you get, when you have to do something for a job, or whether you're doing something as a freelancer, whether you're contributing to open source project, volunteering, whatever it is there's always going to be other people that you have to talk to and explain what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And
Absolutely.
that's the key part, is you can read and watch courses and and go to school and attend classes all you want, but until you can really articulate what you understand, do you really understand it, right? So
Yeah.
that's the challenge for everybody is as you go through this, and you learn something new, is find a forum or find some reason or somebody to, go back and say, hey, look, I just learned this thing. I thought it was interesting. Can I tell you a little bit about it? And just that exercise alone really reinforces your understanding of things.
Yeah, and the other thing that you're saying, which really strikes a chord in my mind, is I really want everybody. I mean, we're really hammering this idea of like getting the experience and surrounding yourself with people. Here's something to think about: the books that you read, the blog posts that you read, the YouTube videos that you watch, the Udemy courses that you take. It all involves people like Joe and I to create that stuff. And really, the real nuggets are the stuff that we haven't created yet. Because honestly, like all of the stuff that's been communicated in like written form or YouTube or blog post, that's all the stuff that's easy to communicate. But sometimes the really big like insights come from just watching how somebody deconstructs a problem. And I really want to like emphasize that point, which is I like boot camps because you kind of learn through a little bit more of the social interaction. But Mortimer Adler, since we're talking about Mortimer Adler, he had more to share. But he's passed away probably 20 odd years ago. And I guess my point is that if anybody can find those opportunities to learn more of what people are not saying, that's really a huge thing. So at least it is for me. I mean, I find that I learn more through just talking to people than reading a book sometimes.
Yeah, that's it. It's for those of you, has anybody heard of Jordan Peterson?
Oh, I sure have. Yeah.
Some
Some people
might be
don't
living
like
under
Jordan
a rock
Peterson.
if you haven't heard.
So,
But Jordan
some people
is he's awesome. I mean, YouTube him. He wrote a book recently called the 12 Rules of Life.
Yep.
Awesome book. I highly encourage everybody to read that.
Good book.
But one of the rules in the book is and I forgot what it is now. Let me see if I can read it.
It's a good book. Yeah, no, I read it this year too, actually.
One of the rules of the book is to assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Right? Assume the person you're listening to might know something you don't. Right? Big whole chapter on that. Right?
Oh yeah.
So it reiterates what you're saying, Matt. Is like, hey, look, I don't care who you are or what level you're at. I can learn something from you. We all can learn something from you. I learn stuff from my 2-year-old son, 5-year-old daughters every day.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. So yeah, I mean, going with that mindset, and there's so many opportunities. So I'm just reading through the comments here, and this is awesome. We have a good diverse group of folks on the call today, and I just want to kind of highlight some of these things. So and I'm sorry if I butcher your name here, but Prajakta has been working as a data analyst for the last 4 years, trying to move more technical role. Awesome, good for you.
Great. Yeah.
Adhi. You're working as a data scientist intern and going for your master's in industrial engineering. Super
cool.
Super gospel. Will currently getting started.
Shout out to Adi because we've corresponded a couple of times. So shout out to you, man.
Awesome. So and look, and Joseph's 2/3 through boot camp. Tejas is working on his master's. This is awesome. I mean, you guys are all coming from a diverse set of backgrounds here, and the field is just booming. There's a place for everybody, no matter where you're at. if you're interested in this stuff. Um, Let us know what you've tried in terms of experience. So if you're trying to build your experience, right, were you able to take on some additional projects in your current job, right? So like
Mhm.
in a case where maybe you're working as a data analyst, have you had the opportunity or have you pursued trying to work on a project that's more machine learning or model development? You know, and if you're working on your master's degree or doing an internship, you know, have you pursued, you know, maybe something at school or something in your company where you can apply some new skills to that? If not, the next stage, I think, if you're not able to find something, you know, quote, in your own backyard, the next stage, I think, really is to kind of get into a freelance type of work
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, yeah.
So, any thoughts on freelancing, Matt?
Yeah, freelancing is interesting. I learned, so I am very much I come from an entrepreneurial family. So my my family actually owned a chain of auto parts stores, which is an interesting world all in itself. And it's interesting because I learned all of my freelancing through my dad, who he passed away like 5 years ago, but he taught me so much about freelancing. And it's funny because it's very similar to what I said at the beginning. Um, and here's a story. My dad retired he used to work at a shipyard and he did crane stuff. And he retired because he was just like, I don't want to work for the government anymore, because he was working for the Navy shipyard. And he started his own company as somebody who was like 60 years old, which is like totally unheard of because, like, nobody starts anything when they're above, like, say 20 years old, right? Well, he did. Um, and his freelancing strategy, he did crane inspections. So, he had to get his credential of, like, basically saying that this is good or this is bad. And honestly, it just blew my mind because he was able to quickly build a multiple six-figure business in like a year or two. And all he did was he would drive to each construction site and say, "Oh, you have a crane. You need to get that inspected. Like, here's my card." And, like, literally, he would just show up and be like, "I'm here. I'm ready. I'm here for you. Whatever you need." And that, I mean, it blew up for him. And I find that when it comes to freelancing, I've never been on Upwork. Yeah, I know a lot of people will do Upwork in the beginning to kind of get things going. I've never done Upwork. And what I do is very much that strategy. I send people emails if I'm looking for work. I reach out to people individually, and I take very much this is kind of the life insurance strategy. Anybody knows a life insurance agent, like, they basically talk to everybody. And honestly, it works because eventually somebody's going to be like, you know what, like, actually I do know somebody who could really help, use some help here or something. And that's all I've ever followed. And that's led to a fairly prolific career. And again, it's very much just this attitude of going after it and showing up and being like, hey, if you need me, I'm here. If you don't, that's cool too. And not really being super attached to whether somebody says something positive or not, or like really worrying about it. It's just like, you know what, just go out there and do it. And um, yeah, the other thing I would say on freelancing is being really clear is good. So the biggest mistake that I made when I first started freelancing consulting is that it's kind of funny. It's basically what I just said. It was like I would I would say, hey, I'm here for anything. Anything is really difficult to sell because people don't buy anything. They buy something. And so I have switched to being much more specific with, I will try and identify like an issue that they might be facing, and then reach out and say, hey, like, do you need help with this? So
Awesome.
I find that's all I do. I don't get any benefit out of websites or, crazy fancy Facebook marketing or any. I've tried all of this stuff. It doesn't work. So.
It's funny, right? It's like you just got to put yourself out there, right? It's like you put yourself out there and talk and offer.
And people, it's really funny because people will always point out that I'm socially like very social intelligence, and like I'm outgoing, so to speak. Here's the thing. Most people don't know this about me, but when I was a kid, I couldn't pick up the telephone. I couldn't talk to people on the phone. I couldn't talk to strangers. I was like ridiculously terrified of people. And it's taken like, I don't know, 20 years to work out of that. And it trust me, like if I can do it, then you can do it. I mean, yeah. So
yeah, I was the same way, man. Same way, whatever, introverts, whatever you want to call them. A lot of people are introverted. It's, both Matt and I we're self-employed consultants. We if you think of it as freelancing in a way. So, and you've been doing this for a while now. How long have you been doing this?
Well, I mean, off and on consulting since about 2012. Yeah, 2012. Okay, yeah. I had a one case where I took a full-time job because I had cancer. So then I wanted to get the medical insurance, which is is what it is. But yeah, pretty much since 2012. And
awesome.
According to that, like I think they say like 90% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. So I'm past that threshold.
There you go. Smooth sailing from now, right? Oh, that's awesome. So I do want to point out one thing is that, when we talk about freelancing, you can certainly decide that you want to go and be a freelancer and not get a job in data science, right? And continue and build your own, either as a self-employed individual or build your own small consulting company. You can certainly do that. And, we could talk about that as much as you want. But for a lot of people, I think what they're really interested in is just maybe doing a little bit of freelance work that will enable them to get a full-time job somewhere. So, and this comes across, quite often. I see in the comments, Arul, you're here. You're a beginner in DS, doing masters in Belgium. Awesome. And you're currently in Sharpest Minds doing an NLP project. So awesome. So Sharpest Minds is a mentorship site and company. I've been a mentor with them for a number of years now. I worked with probably close to between 20 and 30 mentees. And I see this all the time. When people write their resumes, what they tend to do at this level, if you're just starting out, is they have like a project section and they put all these like toy projects that they put in there.
Oh yeah.
It's usually, employers that may help you stand out against somebody that does not have that. But in most cases, like everybody that takes a boot camp now, that's what their resume looks like. Yeah. A better way to do it and a better approach to take is to, think of it as if you're starting your own company. You could even do that if you want, create an LLC. At the very least, create an experience item, right? So one of the bullets in your experience section is going to be, your name, freelance project work. So treat that like a company. And then underneath there, the bullets that support that role are going to be the project work, your freelance project work. So if you go on Upwork and you take on an assignment, you would put bullets there that support the assignment. If you're going to volunteer and do some work at your church or at your community organization, you put the bullets in there. If you're going to, do a side project for somebody that you meet at a barbecue, any freelance work that you can do, I would put it in that section and treat it as, basically your job at a company. It's so much more effective than just listing a bunch of projects that people know,
Yep.
Sometimes they're done halfway, you know, it's not they're not completed, they don't have impact. So I recommend that all of you do that if that's what you're looking to do. There's a number of sites that can help you get freelance work. Like Matt had mentioned, you know, really your network is where you should start there.
Yeah.
Right. Put yourself out there. Talk anytime you have a conversation with somebody, you know, and they say, "Oh, what have you been up to?" You know, let them know, "Hey, I'm looking. You know, I just started doing some freelance work. I'm looking to do some work in data analytics or machine learning. You know, and help people solve problems or gain insights with their data." And you'll be surprised, you know, like
Yeah.
this is like a synchronicity thing, right? We haven't
It
talked
really
about
does. Yeah. Yeah.
synchronicity
Yeah.
too
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk hours on synchronicity. This is a big thing for me. Synchronicity, if you don't know this, you know, is based on some of the work done by Carl Jung
Hmm.
many years ago, is the idea of meaningful coincidences.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, it's like Matt and I, right? We met at Strata one year on a whim,
Yep.
and we actually weren't even at the conference on the same day.
Right.
Like I got the schedule messed up, and you were there on like a Monday, and I wasn't gonna be there till like a Wednesday. And you're like, "Where
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you?" And I'm like, "I didn't get there yet." And so it was like, it
Yeah.
was weird,
Yeah.
but you know, it's like synchronicity. It's like there was a reason why we met at that conference,
That's right.
and just by you putting yourself out there at a barbecue, or you know, I know times are a little different these days, but anybody you talk to, chat rooms,
Yep.
things that you do online, social media, you know, put yourself out there and just say, "Hey, look, this is what I'm working on." Doesn't have to be salesy. Just say, "I'm interested in this. This is what I've been working on," and you'll be surprised. There may be somebody that comes out of the blue and says, "Oh, wow, could you help me solve this problem?"
Yeah.
And you see where it goes.
Well, you know, the other thing is don't limit. The first job that I got as a software developer, I was before that I had no work. It was the middle of a 2009, like a 2008, like financial meltdown, and like I had no work and all this stuff. And um, the person who actually introduced me to what became the start of like my real like programming data science career was just somebody that I met in the dorms at UW. Like she has no idea of like programming or anything like that, and I was just like, and she was just like, can you do like basic programming stuff? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So that's a really important thing, because I notice a lot of people do this too, where it's like, oh well, I should only reach out to the people who do data science or programming, and it's like, no, go to everybody, because eventually you'll find somebody. I mean, you know, maybe you don't need to talk to your grandmother about it, but you never know. I mean, so yeah, it's such an important thing. And the other thing I was going to say about the volunteer experience too, I thought what you brought up, Joe, is so important. Treating this like a business is so essential, and one way to do that is to send your volunteer organizations an invoice for what you would have charged, and take the discount.
Yeah.
Just discount it. So you know, it's like, oh, this was a $1,500 project. Okay, send them an invoice for that and be like, this is, I'm just donating it. And it really changes you know, how you would think about it, and be like, yeah, I mean, your time is valuable,
Right.
your your delivery is valuable, so send them an invoice and be like, this is my donation to whatever organization it is.
That's
Brings so
awesome.
much more meaning. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Definitely shows value. This is
Yeah.
great. So we're about 15 minutes away from the end of the hour. So there's a couple more things I want to share with you guys. Matt, I'm sure you have a couple more things too. And we do want to open the lines to questions as well. So I just want to pause for a second though, because I know we're kind of starting to talk about how to do these things. And, the question that usually comes up next is like, how much do I charge? Do I charge hourly? Do I charge a fixed price, right? There's so many questions that come up. And whether it's this topic or any other topics, it's hard to cover everything on these calls. So recently, Matt and I, we put together a program that helps people and gives them access to us 24/7. Right. So if it's okay with everyone, I'll just want to share that program with you all to see, what you think of it. And then we'll come back. We'll do that real quick. We'll come back. We'll share a couple closing things and open the lines for some questions. Does that sound good? All right. So
That's good to me.
if anybody objects, just write in the comment section. But let me share my screen. This sounds like an awesome crowd, so I'm not worried. Let me just put this here. Let's see if this works. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. Let me maybe, how do we do this? You present. Okay. All right, so we put together this coaching program, the Data Science Superhero Coaching Program. And like I mentioned, this gives you 24/7 access to both Matt and myself. Okay, so you can ask us any questions. Something's keeping you up at night, just shoot us a question. And it doesn't cost $50K. We had some confusion about this on the last call. The reason why I put $50K up here is for Matt and I mean, I don't do any projects for anybody for less than $50K. I mean, it's we're just to the point where client work is so abundant right now. So we do charge quite a bit for our time. But we love doing this and we want to work with you guys. So we kind of put this together at something much, much less than $50K. So you have access as part of the program to the superhero community. And, big shout out to Joseph, who's on the call today. He's in our community. He's asked some freaking awesome questions. We have had so many good discussions in the community there. So you do have access to that and everybody in the community. We also have monthly live meetings. We just had a meeting recently to discuss, what was the topic again?
Time management. Yeah.
Time management. Right.
Oh man, that was killer too. That worked out well.
Time management. So just, folks in our coaching program got exclusive access to this, where we gave some of our tips and resources on how to manage your time.
It's also very collaborative too, because that was actually, it was voted on. So, I mean, it was something that everybody was struggling with. So we talked about time management. It wasn't just Joe and I talking about what we want to talk about.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we do dictate or, provide the things that, people are interested in. Yeah. So if you have other topics, that came from suggestions in the group, in the community on what to present. So we don't have any online training available right now, although we do have replays available to the monthly live meetings. So you do get access. So if you're interested in time management, that's one of the things that you can go back and look and view that training as soon as you join. So typically we would charge about $100 a month or $99 a month for this program. And of course, it's a monthly program. You could cancel anytime if you feel like, it's not right for you or whatever. But for today, we do want to reward people for taking action. And, this isn't really a marketing gimmick. I know a lot of folks try to do this. But I think, believe me, Matt and I have been on the receiving end of this quite a few times.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't really for that purpose. I'm a firm believer that those that take action will succeed. Yeah. So we want to give you a reward that if you sign up for this today, then you will get locked into it for $49 a month for as long as we do the program. And you'll always be grandfathered into that price going forward.
Yep.
Also, you get a 30-day free trial, so you don't even have to pay anything today. I'll give you the link in just a minute. You can go there and sign up for this. And if you like the group and you want to stay a part of it, then you'll get charged after 30 days. And then finally, and this is for a very limited time. We can't do this with everybody, but if you do sign up today, you do get a free one-on-one session with Matt or myself. And we typically charge $250 for this, where you can talk about anything. Having problems at work, have challenges, not sure what you want to learn, whatever it is that you're trying to work through in your career, in your life, we'll do our best to help you out.
Yeah.
So you get all this. And it's very simple to sign up. I'll put the link in the chat. You just go to the page. This is what it looks like. I think you do need to enter your credit card number, but you don't get charged. And
not right away. Yeah.
Free trial. So let me know if you have any questions on the program. You can type them in the chat, or we're going to open up the lines in a few minutes. But I did want to take the time before it gets too late here to offer that to all of you who've been awesome on this call, sitting through, chatting with us. This is a way for you to stay connected to us and a way for us to help you overcome whatever you're trying to succeed with. So,
yeah.
All right. So let me.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing that I really want to emphasize here is that, like, yeah, I mean, Joe already said it, but 50K minimum is our consulting rate, and it's like it's obvious that we really believe in this, and we really believe in each of the individual's success, because we're basically charging what it costs for us to like keep it going. And to be honest, like we love this, and I think more importantly though, it's about, people are always asking like how to get experience, how to level things up, and it's like, yeah, you can get a master's degree. I have a master's degree. It's wonderful, but really Joe and I do this because we've been doing this for years upon years, and we just want to support those who are just getting into this, and this is a way to get experience. It's a way to get somebody to shine the mirror and say, you know what, this is probably what you need to focus on, not that. And we do it in a very supportive way. It's like we really truly want you to succeed, and that's unfortunately not super common these days. So yeah, it's really a labor of love, I would say.
Absolutely. And I think, if you're fortunate in life, like we have been, we had some really good mentors, both Matt and I through our careers, and we know what it's like to get started, especially in this field. This field is so unique because it's interesting, super cutting edge, but also it's challenging.
It's very challenging. Yeah.
Very challenging.
Yeah.
So we'd like to help you. We'd love for you to be a part of the community, the superhero community. And if it's right for you, go up, sign today. If you if you join us today, you get a couple extra bonuses as well. So up to you. All right. So before we open the lines for questions, there's a couple just resources I want to share with everybody. Is that so we talked about freelancing, and we had mentioned Upwork as one of the sites you can use for freelancing. I want to point out a couple other ones that might work for you. So with these types of sites, right, it's going to be a competitive environment. You are going to compete with others.
Yeah,
do this. So you have to think about a strategy and how you're going to succeed with that. But another site you might want to look into is called TopTal.
Oh yeah.
TAL, right?
Yeah.
So I've actually worked a little bit with TopTal. They do have a pretty intensive screening process, which is good because if you get through the screening process, then you get into this pool of sort of less people. It's not so competitive because there's a less number of people.
TopTal is great. Yeah.
Another site is freelancer.com. It's very similar to Upwork. And then I haven't used this one, but this one keeps popping up, is People Per Hour. For data science. So, not a big fan of charging hourly for your work, but, go to that site. That's another alternative. There's always a trade-off between, the popularity of the site versus competition in the site. So if it's not working on one of them, you at least have some other options to try.
Go to another. Yeah. Really good point.
Just two more points that I wanted to make before we close is, another source of freelancing is to go on what I would call sort of like user boards or job boards, chat things. One really good one for startups is called Angel List. If you haven't used that before, the startup world is full of opportunity to go in there and get some work. They're looking for people that are going to be low cost. They don't really have the resources to hire somebody at our huge data scientist rates. So if you go in there and you say, hey, look, I'll do some work for you for either cheap or free, maybe they'll hire you as part of that. And I've seen people do this on a number of situations. It's been really helpful for them. And Sharpest Minds is another site. Through their mentorship programs, they do have hiring partners as well. And then the last thing I want to tell you is sort of as a last resort, you can go to job post websites and just type in the keyword freelance data scientist. So if you go on places like ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Glassdoor, or LinkedIn, and type in freelance data scientist, you may find people who have actually posted looking for somebody that's a freelancer. Kind of narrows down the field big time.
Cool. A lot of things to try.
Any closing remarks before we open the lines?
No, nothing from me. No, it's always a pleasure doing this. So nothing on top of my mind.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and open the line. So if somebody wants to ask a question, you can unmute your line and just go ahead and ask a question, and we'll answer as many as we can.
Hello.
Hey, Gospel.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Greetings, Mr. Joe Papa and Mr. Matt Keck. Thank you so much for. Thank you so much. I'm Gospel. So I studied chemical engineering from Nigeria, and I just recently started my pathway to data science, and I'm kind of looking for a way to connect my field of discipline, chemical engineering, to data science. And so I'm kind of looking for a way to, I've not really seen. So I just want to ask, how do I go about it? How do I link my experience with chemical engineering as well as data science?
It's a really interesting question, because I feel that, so here's something to chew on, is that a lot of the people that became data scientists originally were actually physicists. So a lot of like particle physicists ended up like starting a lot of the machine learning stuff and like applied data science. And I find that the real value to people is their multidimensional nature. We're all different in our own way. And, personally, I also have a degree in economics. So I approach data science with a very economic point of view. I feel that, I don't know enough about chemical engineering to give you any sort of like tactical like advice, but I feel that, you have to understand some basics of data science, like, data processing and munging and some basic maybe machine learning and modeling. But then at the same time, like, you can take your experience with chemical engineering, so, understanding things like statics and dynamics, or like, calculus really well, and just bring it over. And I feel like if you're able to do that and realize that this is not necessarily easy to do, it requires some work. If you're able to do that, then I really feel that it will end up making you even more desirable in the marketplace. So yeah, I'm curious what you think, Joe.
Yeah, awesome. I totally agree with you. It's it's a huge advantage to have domain experience in something, right?
Yeah.
My background is in electrical engineering,
Mm-hmm.
wireless communications. So how I started out in machine learning was I started applying machine learning to wireless communications. And, it's a real advantage if you have some sort of domain experience that you could build on. I would also recommend to develop your skills in programming,
Mm-hmm.
because that will set you apart from other chemical engineers.
Very much so. Yeah.
But I mean, it's great. I mean, if you can find something in, even in pharmaceuticals or in the health space is very related to
That's a good point.
chemistry and biochemistry, there's a lot of work available for that right now. So I would recommend that you focus on that industry and that domain, and develop your data science skills against data specific to that domain. It'll definitely give you an advantage.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Gospel. All right. Anybody else have a question?
Just got to notice that there's three Josephs on this call. Man, I'm outnumbered here. Yeah, anybody else? Feel free to unmute, just ask.
I don't really have a question at the moment. I get to ask those in that great group you guys created. But I did want to speak up and just say, seriously, like, that group is super valuable. So thank you, Joe and Matt, for putting that together. It's really been cool to be in there. And I'll also say a quick shout out to Matt directly. Like, honestly, you mentioned about, like, your start. Like, I wouldn't be in data science probably if I hadn't. Matt does consulting for the company I work for. And I think 2 years ago, almost to this day, I want to say it was August when you were there. I saw him. He spoke on some stuff for the company. There was a big gathering at the headquarters, and it really opened up my eyes to what's out there. So thank you for that.
I'm glad it opened up your eyes. Yeah, the talk I gave back then was about all the barriers to getting into machine learning and why people say, I don't want to learn any of this stuff because, like, it's unethical or whatever. And it's like, let's break those barriers down. So I'm glad it worked, man. Really am.
Awesome. Cool, man. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate you sharing that. That's great. All right. Anybody else have a question they want to ask? All right. Well, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap up the call. Like I mentioned before, you have the link if you want to join us in the coaching program. We'd be glad to have you. Thanks for joining us today and participating. And no matter where you are in your field, I wish you all the best.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, everybody. You enjoy the rest of your day, and good luck in all that you do. Take care.
Yeah. All right. See you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.